All right.
Starting the tunes.
All right.
Starting the tunes.
All right.
Starting the tunes. All right. Well, I guess since Ev's not here, I'll just do the intro, so then you'll know when it's starting. That'll make it maybe a little easier.
I don't actually hear the music on my end.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So I'll start the intro, then throw it to you. So. Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Shots Fired podcast. Episode 18, another one bites the dust. A deceptive reference to the fact that our usual intro man is not currently here. Valen, replaced by a picture of what appears to be chicken tacos. Which makes sense.
Additionally, a reference to the fact we're going to talk a little bit about death in video games.
Yes. Yes, you can tell by how the tacos are arranged that that's what we're going for. Junkblade, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. The inspiration for this topic came from a night Valen and I had where we were watching things together and then just talking about things in media that we liked or disliked.
All right.
So, something in all of media, video games included, there's a little bit of a practice that is rightfully frowned upon. The slang term for this is called fridging, based on a comic book where one of the Green Lantern's girlfriends was killed, cut up, and stuffed in a fridge.
Ew.
Yeah. They did this solely to motivate the main character, and it is widely disliked as a plot device because, for one, it's easy and lazy.
Yeah, that's...
For two, something you always have to keep in mind when you're going to be killing off a character in anything is how many more stories can you tell with this character dying than you can tell with them staying with the party?
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Killing them really sets you down a very discrete path.
Yes.
Where it's... yeah.
And, granted, I have not actually played all the way through this game because it's just not entirely my thing, but I think one of the most infamous examples, not of just a death in a video game, is probably from Final Fantasy VII and Sephiroth killing Aerith. Or
yes.
Aerith.
No, let's do Aerith. Because Aerith sounds ridiculous.
It does, and I also just like the name Aerith because
that's a good name.
God of Chaos from, well, Greek mythology and also just several things I've watched.
Okay. Yeah, that was definitely I agree, it's kind of like a balance, right? Because you kind of want, like, sometimes you want your stories to have weight. Like, that's something people level at, like, the comic books, like we were talking about, and, like, the comic movies, is, like, none of the deaths seem impactful because you know they're probably going to bring the character back in some form or another.
Or it's a lesser well-known character, and the death will stick, but
it's meaningless, right?
It's meaningless because they died for a meaningless reason.
Yeah, there's not much investment in that character to begin with.
And I'm kind of realizing that the general theme of my topics tonight, other than just talking about specific games, is actually bad writing.
Let's say it's tough because, especially, like, I feel like this is probably mostly in the realm of RPGs,
It's
where
something that,
if the character is going to if the character death is going to have weight, it's going to be a character that you've played as.
yeah, it has
the
to be
most
something
part,
you
right?
care about.
So there was one, and this is probably Final Fantasy. I guess is a couple examples of this because there's one in Final Fantasy V, where there's a character, and in 4 actually. I guess for the 4/2 is more well known. There's the twins. I guess they don't die, but they turn themselves to stone.
Okay.
There's the Tello the wizard who sacrifices himself to try to kill the main bad guy. Actually, Final Fantasy IV is those might be one of the better done ones in video games that I can think of, really. Which maybe that's not a high bar, but same in your example of Final Fantasy VII with Aeris. You've got, like, I used her in my original playthrough way back when. I used her quite a lot because she was a good healer, and I just kind of liked her as a character in terms of the dialogue and stuff.
And I do want to specify for our one viewer out there that when I brought up the topic of Aeris dying, that was not as an example of bad writing, just an example of a well-known death.
No, that's going to be the example of death in video games for sure.
Yeah. People who've never played Final Fantasy VII know Aeris died, just like people who've never seen Star Wars know that Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Yes, it has reached that, or at least that around that level of ubiquitousness. But yeah, so I mean, they even limit breaks were a thing in that game where you'd unlock. It took a long time to unlock, their ultimate limit break. But
Yeah,
Aeris had one, and I'm never gonna get close to having it because I'd have to sit and grind for who knows how long to get to that point.
To do it on a character who isn't going to be with you past disc 1 anyway.
Exactly. Now, one thing I was listening, I can't remember what podcast it was, but they were talking about, they're remaking Final Fantasy VII.
I have heard that for a couple of years now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a huge mess. But you say one. They're going to the more action style combat of the more recent games, which I just takes my interest and throws it down the drain.
Which is fair, because as a player of the original, you would want an upgraded version of the original, not something completely different that just has the same story.
Exactly. If you're trying to bring back those feelings, just update the graphics, and that's what you do. But the other people were also wondering if they would change the story at all.
Which I'm thinking they might.
And what they supposed was that they would kill Tifa instead of Aeris, which I think is ridiculous. Unless you're just going to whole hog switch those two characters, and then that's meaningless.
I liked this one comic I read that just had a joke about this sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It shows Sephiroth killing Aeris, and then a little thing pops up saying, "Buy the Aeris Lives DLC for $49.99." And then it just shows the Square Enix headquarters drowning in money.
That's a very good point. But so much of that, the entire central line of that plot is tied up with her death, and what that meant in terms of summoning Holy and all that stuff. I just don't see how you replace Tifa in that spot. And I don't know. I just did not. I really hope they don't do that, because I think that would be just a mess. And then you're essentially creating a wholly different game and just swerving people.
I feel like it has to have a balance. It has to have enough to draw in new players while still appealing to the people who played it originally. Because if they don't appeal to the people who played it originally, it's pretty much guaranteed to bomb, I would think.
Yeah. The reception I think they're in terms of making money. I think they're going to make plenty of money.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the goodwill they would get from making a quote unquote faithful, or doing a good job of updating it to a modern context, I don't know. I'm worried about it just because of apparently it's just been a complete mess in terms of development. The fact that they're not even close to this is supposed to be episodic, I think, and they were supposed to. I'm pretty sure the first episode should have been out by now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I was hearing about this game back in 2016.
Oh yeah, and it might have been the year before that even that it was. They gave that really good teaser trailer at E3, but it loses all of its significance at this point. Like it's not even on my radar really.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it doesn't really matter how broken the game is, you have to ship it out.
Yeah, there's a point of no return.
Yeah.
That I wonder when they're going to reach, because most people have probably forgotten about it. I mean, I guess there's not whenever it comes out is going to be fine. They're going to get plenty of coverage and all that sort of stuff. So I guess that's not really a danger. But yeah, that's interesting. So the other thing is, in terms of deaths in games, what about ones like platforming type games and stuff? Like, there's
story deaths, or just your character dying?
Kind of more your character. I guess your personal story going through the game. Like,
looks like we lost Doc.
Oh, did you? Can you hear me?
Let's give him a moment to make it back.
I can hear you.
In the meantime, I shall ramble on about a game with deaths that I do actually quite like, which is the... Oh.
No?
Yeah, I can hear...
Oh, you can hear me? Hello?
What the heck was that? Yeah, I cannot hear you, Dave.
Can't hear me.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Something... I don't know what happened there. I got horrible feedback in my headphones for a moment.
That's weird. Okay.
Okay, so what kind of deaths were you talking about in platformers?
I guess like the example I can come up with is that one night I spent playing this 6-second Super Mario Maker level, and trying to beat it is one of those like mini Kaizo challenges.
Yeah.
And I just kept dying and dying over and over again, but those served a purpose in terms of me at least getting eventually to that goal. Some would argue painfully slowly.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of when people talked about like games like Super Meat Boy and like the very difficult platformers, and how the deaths, the reset time between when you were just going again was extremely important to them.
Yeah,
losing interest in continuing, and that's something I thought was an interesting kind of design.
I played 2 games that are super lethal platformers, only one of which that I finished. Or finished in the sense of beat the game, not 100%ed, because 100%ing it is just no.
Yeah.
The other one, I didn't even get close. I gave up pretty quickly. The 2 are called... One of them's on Steam, and it's just like 8 Vs in a row.
Oh, okay. Yep. I've heard of that one.
And the other one is called I Wanna Be the Guy.
Oh, I've heard of that one too.
That one is ridiculously difficult, and I just don't have any interest in even trying to beat it.
That's one you should watch the speedrun of then, I think, because that people are grossly good at that game.
Yeah.
But I think what allows those games to kind of be successful is actually wrapped up in the death aspect of it, because one, it's about having the challenge be to the extent that it feels like you're at least learning and or you understand that the deaths are your fault.
Sort of like the good portions of Dark Souls.
Yes, exactly. Where you're like, oh, I got impatient or something with this pattern, but then getting you back into the action fast enough that you're not stewing in it every time, that sort of thing. Kind of like the opposite of Counter-Strike when you die immediately in the round and have to wait 3 minutes.
One of many reasons I don't play Counter-Strike.
Probably smart. But yeah, I think death. Yeah, you're right. Death in games is similar to kind of what we talked about in terms of death in media. It's a difficult, but I think it's even more difficult in games just because of that. The aspect of if you want it to have weight, it's going to have to be a sacrifice that the player makes, and that's not always something that. It's a tricky needle to thread, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's like I was trying to ramble on about while I couldn't hear anything from you. I think Ogre Battle 64 does deaths pretty well.
Okay.
Like 90% of the bosses you fight will die at the end of the fight. If you do the good run, then some of them you can recruit to your side.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's actually important for the story that most of the bosses die, because you're in a war, and even though this is one of those games where you do have the resurrection items, they don't actually work out of battle.
Okay.
So, just like in Final Fantasy, where you can't bring Eris back with a Phoenix down, she's dead.
Yeah. Which is a little... I guess Pokemon got a good thing about this, because it talks about, fainting.
Yeah.
Whereas the Final Fantasy games always, I feel like the language always is, dead, basically.
I feel like the language difference there is important.
Yeah.
Because there are explicitly deaths in Pokemon. Like, in the very first game, when you meet your rival, he was at the Pokemon Tower of Graves, because he just buried one of his.
Right.
And because in the previous fights, he has this Pokemon that he never has in his party again. And this is just a fan theory, but why else would he be at the Grave Tower? Because
how bad of a trainer is he that he killed you can't even try to kill a Pokemon if you're...
I don't think he tried to. I don't think it was a matter of bad training. I think it's it just got sick, and Pokemon centers are only so good at making Pokemon better.
I don't know, never failed me before.
That's because you're explicitly a better trainer than he is.
That's true.
In every way.
That's true.
In that game.
I put in the work. Okay.
Yeah, I do think games like that should come up with either an in-universe reason why you can't actually bring someone back to life, or why the character is dead and then the Tome of Resurrection works on them then, but not in other scenarios, simply other than just because the plot says so.
Yeah.
And because the plot says so is a really bad reason for anything.
That could be a reason a lot of people avoid it, is because that amount of explanation they might think just isn't worth trying to think up all those different things for.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I think so. Also, it's kind of a bummer. So, but okay, so I think that was interesting, though. I think we'll get plenty of questions like that eventually when people come back and listen to this.
Exactly.
But I think there was a game you said you started, Tales of Berseria, I believe?
Tales of Berseria, which is in the Tales of series. I haven't really played any other game in it. It has an interesting start. My friend was correct. It is exactly my sort of game.
Right, lay out the relevant conflict here.
So, the conflict is pretty simple. It takes about an hour, maybe two, to just get the intro out of the way and get into the main plot.
Classic RPG.
You are a character named Velvet, who has a sick little brother she's taking care of. And I can't remember the relevant character's relation to her. It sounded like he's her father, but it wasn't entirely clear.
Okay.
Anyway, her mother died like 7 years ago. And so these two are all she has left in terms of family. And the kid keeps sneaking out of the house even though he's sick and getting into dangerous situations. Later on, you hear about the big conflict, which is that this thing called the demon plague is afflicting the land, and regular people who give into like despair or fear turn into demons.
That's not good.
No, it's not. So, the antagonist of the story, Artorias, the guy who I'm not sure if what his relation to you is exactly, ends up sacrificing your little brother in front of you to try and stem the plague. This doesn't really work as intended. Apparently, after he does this, the game skips to about 3 years later.
Okay.
And there are a lot more exorcists now than there used to be, but they're barely holding it back. And it's unclear if they actually made any impact at all. So naturally, when he killed your little brother, your character gave in to hatred and became a demon. As almost all of her mental faculties still. She became a special type of demon called a Therion, which is a demon that eats other demons.
Oh, well. I was going to guess Daywalker, but I guess that would have been a little...
Anyway, at this point, the story is about her trying to get revenge, plain and simple. Other characters assist her, and this one character who actually worked for the antagonist, Artorias, outright says, basically, he needs to die before he gets too powerful. And you're the one who is best equipped to do that. So, even though she doesn't necessarily like you, she's going to help you get revenge.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's the intro. That's not spoiling too much. That's literally just the base premise of the game.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be a twist in there somewhere about 60 hours in, probably. But...
Probably. But I like the concept. You are actually playing what is essentially the bad guy, but you're trying to take down someone who's even worse.
Okay, yeah, that is kind of a twist on that.
And so far I have 2 people assisting me. The witch, or spellcaster, or magician, or whatever title it is she prefers, Maggie Lou, who has a much, much longer name. Who I find quite amusing. Like, she's the comic relief, sort of.
Okay.
And honestly, I forget the other guy's name. I don't find him that memorable right now. I think he's one of those people who will grow on me as time goes on. But right now, all I know about him is he's also a demon, and he has this sword that he refuses to ever pull out of its sheath.
Oh, I can't wait for that to... climactic moment, I'm sure.
Or figure out why it is that he has this, like, vow against ever using it, or something.
Yeah. It's just really heavy, probably. It just doesn't...
Probably. I'm sure that's it.
So what style of combat is this?
Similar to, I'd say similar to Nier, third person.
Okay.
It's definitely a button masher. But I kind of like games like that.
Yeah, I'd say that. I think I've heard people say that those are fun examples of that. Boy, I'm missing some turn-based style combat, I'll tell you.
I understand. I think companies have just kind of gotten away from that in general. I think it's sort of like how certain genres of movies kind of die off for a while and then come back later.
it's considered to be kind of old style and that sort of thing. And kids these days don't want to read a menu, and they want to feel like they're like some people said they never felt like they were doing the attack. I don't know. It was kind of a weird, but like when you can summon a dragon that
Personally,
destroys the earth with a plasma blast, I don't care that I'm not pressing buttons.
Darkest Dungeon is turn-based, and it's one of my favorite games.
Okay. So yeah, the indie space I think still does quite a few turn-based things.
Which I think makes sense because a AAA developer has to put this much money into a game and get this minimum out of it. And they've probably done market research that says turn-based games are not popular enough to justify putting this minimum amount into them because we're going to get less than that back.
Yeah. Also, I think turn-based are probably a little easier to program for like a small team, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not worrying about physics colliding and that kind of nonsense that can be a big detriment to third-person action games.
Yeah, I've had a few clipping issues in Dark Souls that have resulted in deaths while I've played with my friend.
Yeah.
That's something that is really hard to deal with as a developer, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's something that can really annoy you, but it's also kind of understandable that they're probably not going to be able to fix that entirely throughout a game of that size type of thing. But
yeah.
Okay. So how many hours have you put into it so far?
Into Tales of Berseria, I will check. I believe it is somewhere around the 4 to 6 mark.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, so pretty early days yet.
Tales of Berseria. 3 hours, in fact.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, not very far in.
Okay, I'll be interested to hear how that evolves for you as you move through it then. That'll be interesting.
I'll be interested to find out how it evolves for me.
So the only game I've kind of put a little bit of time into this week's been a little crazy. Is the recently released Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. So there's another Bloodstained game that's going to be coming out that's very analogous to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I don't know if you've played that.
I haven't played any of the Castlevanias, and I should feel ashamed for not doing so.
Well, I mean, a lot of the good ones were a long time ago. Symphony of the Night was a PlayStation 1 game, I believe.
The only ones that I have are the Nintendo 64 ones, because I got them for free from a friend. Yep,
that's about right, because those are not well regarded.
So at least the viewers know I did not waste my money.
Yeah, but this is very much an homage to the NES Castlevania games. So there were 3 Castlevania games on the NES, all kind of very difficult, deliberate platformers. Like you didn't have nearly the freedom of control that you felt in like a Mario game. Difficult in terms of the enemies and that sort of stuff, and this is kind of in that vein, but still kind of like it's very much in the Shovel Knight kind of aspect in terms of how it looks and animates. Like it's 8-bit style, but it looks so much better because of the frames of animation they can do.
I still need to actually play through that as Reaper Knight.
Yeah, the amount of things they've put into that game is fantastic, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that all these additional things they came out with, yes, they increased the price of the game later on, but everyone who already had the game got them for free.
Yeah, did like all the stuff for free?
I got all the I got both the Plague Knight and the Reaper Knight DLCs for free for already owning the game before they came out.
I should check that, because I have it on some system.
Or at least I got it for free on Steam. I don't know if it applies to anything else.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. But no, yeah, that's great. That would be great, though. I'm very excited to see what they do next. So I think there's a lot of room in that space of like modernish design games, but with that pixel art aesthetic.
I agree, because there are enough people who
grew
up with those sort of games.
Well, plus really, like, well done. They look fantastic. Like, it's you know, those older Super Nintendo games that had a coherent art style, like they have. It's funny how much better those have aged than the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1 era of the early polygonal games. When back in the day, you'd be like, "Oh, this is so graphics can't get any better than Super Mario 64," and now it's like, "Oh my god, how did we tell what this was?" Sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Looking at my Steam library, I've got DuckTales Remastered as a pixelated game that's actually quite good.
Okay, I heard that. I heard good things about that.
It's not quite like a pixelated game, but Rogue Legacy is in the vein of games like that.
Yeah, for sure. Axiom Verge is one that's definitely in that vein.
I haven't played that one. I have played 20XX, which is fun in its own way, although I still prefer just regular Mega Man games.
Yeah. So did you see the Mega Man 11 trailer?
I have not seen the trailer, but my friend has informed me of its existence and has said she's heard really good things about it. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, the announcement, when they announced it a couple months ago, the trailer they showed I thought looked awful. Like, I don't know what it was about it, but it just did not look good. I think the work they've done in the interim time, it looks so much better to me, because I was initially bummed that it wasn't kind of a pixelated art style, but it looks like they've cleaned, for lack of a better term, they've cleaned it up to a degree that I'm actually a lot more excited about it than I was previously.
So, give me a moment to take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm always glad to hear that there's another Mega Man game on the horizon, because it's been one of those. Yeah.
And even 9 and 10 weren't really done by Capcom. They were done by a different company. They were just originally just released on the Wii and stuff. Like, I didn't even really hear about them until a couple years later.
My friend I mentioned have joked that Capcom hates her specifically and me specifically because most of the Mega Man game series doesn't actually have an ending. Like, Mega Man Zero gets an ending.
Uh-huh.
The regular Mega Man game series has not had an ending yet. Mega Man X doesn't really get an ending.
No, yeah, they catch the guy, and then the next game he's just right back to, it's not going to stick.
Or, like, the series stops being made, like, one game before it would have actually ended.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem to keep happening.
The Double Gear system.
Oh yeah, that does look like an interesting. I wonder if that's going to expand beyond, like, the time slowdown mechanic.
Thank God that the voice actor doesn't sound like a little girl anymore.
Oh, Mega Man, what was that Mega Man 8 that they did that?
Yeah.
I still would prefer no voice.
In it? I completely agree. I would prefer just regular old text, but
or just, like, maybe during the cutscenes fine, but during, like, the action, like, I don't need a screech every time they jump, so I'm hoping that's not too onerous. But
Fuse Man, Block Man.
I do like the look of Fuse Man, at least. I think they're.
Blockman doesn't look too bad.
No, neither of them look too bad, but because the bosses appear to be the most difficult part of designing a Mega Man game, because they got pretty silly towards the latter stages of those games.
Yeah, that's fair. I like most of the bosses from the Mega Man X series.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of like how they changed the formula a bit. And I like how in Mega Man X3, all of them were animals, specifically.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I say those are... I've gotten a good way through Mega Man X, but I need to beat those games.
X3 is kind of annoying, after you played X and X2, because my friend and I were talking about this, a different friend. I actually have lots of friends, believe it or not. Who we noticed the damage is scaled weirdly in X3 compared to X1 and X2.
Oh, really?
It's a lot more lethal in X3 until you get the armor capsule.
Devious.
So
that's no good.
Yeah, once you get the armor capsule, it regulates to about where it's actually supposed to be, but you have to kill at least 2 or 3 bosses before you can do that.
Yeah, that takes a bit.
Because you need to kill Rush Rhino and get you have to go to Blizzard Buffalo's stage to get the legs capsule. You have to go to Neon Tiger's stage to get the Buster capsule. Oh, you need 3 bosses dead at least, because you need Gravity Beetle's weapon to actually reach the armor.
Okay. So those names are I think are a lot funnier on the Japanese, because I've got the Super Famicom versions of X2 and X3 because the SNES cartridges are ridiculously expensive these days.
I have the SNES cartridge for the X3. I used to have the ones for X and X2, and I have no idea where they went. I posted on Facebook asking the cousins to look for them because I'd give them a finder's fee.
Yeah, if you can locate I've got X. You can get. I got that off of eBay for like $30, I think. But X2 and X3, I think, are well over $100.
X3 is $200 by itself in good condition.
Yeah, but for but I got the Super Famicom versions for $25 each.
Yeah,
and you don't need to read any text to play Mega Man. So
no, you don't.
But yeah, I'll have to look up some of the examples of the boss names in the Japanese versions, but they're much sillier, if I recall. Okay, so I think you also wanted to give us a D&D update.
All right, so I went to my game store Friday to play Friday Night Magic, a format called Draft, but we couldn't get enough people. Okay. So I drifted over to this D&D game that was going on. The guy only had 2 players, and I figured, you know what, I'll round it out, make 3, because nothing else was going on, and I didn't feel like driving back home.
Yeah.
Just yet. And before I begin this story, I do want to say I don't think the DM is like a bad guy or anything. This isn't one of those stories about, oh, the DM did horrible things to my character, they tortured them or raped them, or one of those horrible stories. Yeah, I've read a number of stories like that. Okay. It's some people not only shouldn't be dungeon masters, they probably shouldn't even go out of their house ever again.
Yeah, seems like it. Oh my goodness.
Anyway, this guy's not. It doesn't seem like a bad guy. It's just that, you know how all of us in our like early stages of learning how to determine good writing from bad writing, we all have major flaws with the way we write things.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's just where he's at right now, and needs to realize over time why these things are bad. So first of all, as a dungeon master, he actually forces his players to do things. Like, that is something a dungeon master should never, ever do, because as the dungeon master, you get control of everything in the world except the player characters.
Exactly.
As soon as you start controlling the player characters for any period of time,
you're playing by yourself.
you're not. You shouldn't be DMing. You should be writing a novel.
Yeah. Plus, you should be able to. What you want to do is like sort of guide them in a way that they don't realize, right? So that's
and.
Not that that's easy to do, I guess, but...
Yeah, but you can always say, like, you can always just set your book down for a moment and go out of character. Guys, I understand that this might be a little bit out of character, but can you do this thing? to keep the plot going.
Yeah.
Or guys, I understand that you're interested in doing this, but if you do this, then the campaign's going to be completely derailed, and I don't have anything prepared for this idea. And it's not just that I don't have anything prepared for this idea, I can't think of how to, just do it off from the seat of my pants.
No, you can't go to space. I have not prepared anything for space.
Also, we saw what happened when the Muppets went to space. Exactly. You don't want to repeat that. Alright, so the next issue I had is he has literally 2 deities in his setting. Their names are literally Plot and Chaos.
Oh boy.
And I do want to preface all of this by saying his ideas aren't inherently bad, it's the execution.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a setting that only has 2 deities, with one of them being law and order and the other just being chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games that have that as a concept. It's the execution I'm taking issue with here.
Uh-huh.
So, apparently these 2 gods collaborated and made a third practically deity thing called Jarvez. Which, first of all...
Wait, Jarvis?
Jarvez is how he pronounced it.
Okay. Was it like Iron Man?
I wish he was that helpful. In fact, the concept the Dungeon Master seemed to have in mind was Navi, but omnipotent and deliberately annoying.
Oh, jeez.
So, he showed up about 5 or 6 times in that session to screw with one of the other players and give out completely unhelpful advice.
Cool.
You must equip arrows to use your bow levels of unhelpful advice.
Oh, man. So just really over trying to do too much, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I can see ways that concept could sort of work, but at the same time, I already know that if I tried anything like that, the campaign would turn into PCs kill Jarvez.
Yeah.
They would say, screw the main plot, we're finding a way to kill a god so we can kill Jarvez. And if Plot and Chaos bring him back, we're going to find a way to kill them too.
There's not, I can't think of a group that would not go down that path, probably.
In fact, one of the other players' plan, even though he doesn't think it'll work out of character, is to kill Jarvez. Anyway, the last thing that I specifically wanted to mention, and is the part I find the most over-the-top obnoxious about this, is his extremely powerful NPC, which you can have extremely powerful NPCs. That's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Often they're the antagonist. For example, there's a campaign in 4th edition called Scales of War, and major spoilers here for anyone who plays it, so mute this for about a minute. The way Scales of War works is it builds to you killing the god Tiamat.
Okay.
It's a level 1 to level 30 campaign, and the final battle is with Tiamat herself.
Gotcha.
And that's sort of the thing a powerful NPC is supposed to do. They're supposed to be like a background thing for the setting that the players maybe interact with if...
Way down the line.
Yeah, way down the line.
Yeah. And their power doesn't,
his NPC
often affect the PCs, right? It's just the looming threat of that.
Yeah, it's maybe they're the final boss of the campaign, and that's fine. Obviously, the story would be really boring if you beat the final boss in the first 2 sessions.
Yeah.
any story would be boring if you beat the big bad antagonist in the first 2 episodes, and then you have to have another 26 episodes to finish off your season.
Yeah, probably. That would be awkward.
So his NPC he refers to as 2 things, either the God Cow or the fuck you cow.
Oh boy, naming with this guy.
Well, the naming is fine because it's literally just a cow. Which...
Well, Bessie or Mabel, I don't know.
Or there's ways you could have made this okay. Like, the base concept is fine. It's the leftovers from when creation was made sort of coalesced into this abomination. But
gross. All right.
You could have had it look like, a minotaur mixed with some sort of god of war.
Yeah.
Or a minotaur mixed with some Cthulhuoid monstrosity, or any number of things. And you made it a cow. A cow whose literal only purpose is to kill things, usually the players. And there are, again, the concept itself is potentially fine.
Yeah.
The Legend of Zelda has a similar concept in the Cuckoos. If you hit them enough times, they just murder you.
But those don't follow you around purposely trying to get you to hit them. So. And
it's like a joke there, whereas he was playing it entirely seriously.
Okay. Yeah, that's an issue.
So those were my big issues, and I stuck through it because I was like, you know what, this is a one-time thing, and it's not so bad that I just want to walk, but if it was like a long-term campaign, after the session was over, I'd say, hey, sorry, your DMing style does not really work for me, I'm not going to be back.
Did the other people seem to be enjoying it, or what do you think?
Yes, they did. They seem to be regulars. They're probably really good friends with him and probably have very similar senses of humor.
Okay. Plus, that's always a difficult thing to bring up to a friend or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, I could see that being awkward.
The issue is he wants to run a session for my group with the God Cow.
Oh, boy.
And next Wednesday, I'm going to tell my group this and warn them about the God Cow specifically.
I think that's a crossover we don't need. That's what I would say.
Well, it's not the campaign I'm in is going to end next week. We're at the final stretch, and the party's going to, I think, make it through okay.
Okay.
I'm changing the ending around a little bit because the way it was written makes for a very underwhelming final battle. Also, I might have 11 people, so that would be
oh man,
even 1 versus 11 is a little bit no.
Yeah, that would be difficult.
Last session, I was expecting 6 or 7 people, and then 4 new people showed up, and the only other pods, one already has 10 people, and the other was the obnoxious teens that I mentioned in the Friday group.
Okay, that's I feel like almost half that is the sweet spot, right? Do you have
for my next campaign, I'm actually going to say, look, I'm not having more than 5 people in this.
Yeah, I think I agree. Because otherwise, I don't know how you get through a reasonable amount of time with everyone feeling that they've done something.
I can't. I tried, but it's really, really hard with that many people.
Some of those easier battles could be over before you even.
Also,
some of them even act, right? So
I mainly use my phone to track initiative, so imagine that with 11 people, plus however many more enemies I need to add in to make an even encounter for 11 people. Which is 3 times as many, because I'm pretty sure the campaign was planned for about 4.
Oh, man. Okay. So we'll want to hear how that's going next week, I'm sure. So
I will be more than willing to tell you.
Continue the D&D update at that time, I think. Okay. Well, one of these weeks I'm going to play more games that I keep meaning to play, so I'll have more to talk about, but I guess this week with traveling, Memorial Weekend, and all that nonsense makes it more difficult. Let's see, Valen, do you have anything to add?
Don't think Valen has anything to add.
Okay. The tacos remain silent.
The tacos remain silent.
It doesn't look like we're going to get any questions from chat.
All right. Do we have anything else on the agenda to discuss other than me just talking about Darkest Dungeon for a little bit?
I don't think so, and I think I'd like to do that with Valen since he had played did he play that game, or was that a different game?
I don't know if he played it. I know he has it in his library.
Okay. I think he's played it to some degree, so I think I'd like to hear his and your thoughts together on that one, I think.
That makes sense.
All right. Well, here's okay. Little ending question. Is the Persona series anything that would interest you at all?
It is. I just have heard that emulating it does not work very well.
I guess, yeah, it is only on PlayStation platforms. So that is difficult.
And, I would guess, given how many good things I've heard about Persona 4, that a disc is like $70.
I don't know. That might be a...
No, only, looks like it's only about 15.
I say, and Persona 3 is actually good too. So if you could probably find and you can get Persona 3 new on Amazon for $15 too.
Okay.
But
it might be that I've heard the PS Vita version is better, and that might be what I'm thinking of. That one doesn't emulate well.
I beat it on the PS2, and I don't really feel like I missed out to any great degree.
Okay.
And you can certainly find a PS2 for cheaper than a Vita, but
I actually have a PS2.
Oh, well then shoot. Buy Persona 3 and Persona 4.
I will once I have a job.
That would help.
I'm not, it's not like I'm broke right now, but I want to conserve money for the most part.
Fiscal responsibility, always smart. So
yeah. I like this thing I read. Don't live every day like it's your last. Live every day like your rent is due tomorrow.
I have not heard that one. That's a good one.
It was in an article I read, and I would give credit to the author if I could remember who they were. So,
Google
author, if you're somehow listening to this, or if any of our listeners know who it is, I give you full credit. That is not mine at all, and I adore that saying.
We tried. We tried to give credit. I think that counts. So. All right. Well, with that pearl of wisdom, I think we'll be signing off for the week. Is there any new game that you're planning to play in this coming week?
Not this coming week, but in the near future, Dark Souls Remastered.
Oh, that's right. That is coming out.
It's out, actually. My friend bought it for me as a gift.
Oh, well, that's very nice. Okay, well, I'll be interested to hear what is it? I guess, we'll get into it when you've played some of it, what the changes are.
Yeah, I have not played any of it yet. Tonight, I will probably just play a bit of that MMO I mentioned earlier, Silk Road Online.
Okay, and I'll try to complete Bloodstained and maybe continue my battle with randomizers. Will be probably the main thing I'll try to do. But
all right,
we'll try to get Valen on next week. But until then, everyone have a good and safe evening.
Farewell, everyone.